From the lead actor being struck by lightning to unexplainable spiritual occurrences on set, these are 10 surprising facts about Passion of the Christ. 10. Authentic languages. Director Mel Gibson was serious about making the Passion of the Christ feel as real as possible. So instead of having the actors speak English, he insisted they use Aramaic, Hebrew and Latin, the languages spoken during Jesus' time. His goal was to transport the audience back 2,000 years and make them feel like they were witnessing the actual events. At one point, he even considered not using subtitles, thinking the raw emotions and visuals would be enough to tell the story. But let's be honest, most people don't speak Aramaic, so that idea didn't last long. However, the choice to use ancient languages gave the film a unique authenticity that made it stand out from other biblical movies. Even though audiences had to read subtitles, many viewers felt the experience was more immersive. Because it wasn't just another Hollywood film, it was like watching history come to life. 9. On-set injuries. Now, playing Jesus was no walk in the park for Jim Caviezel. The role pushed him physically and mentally in ways most actors will never experience. One of the most painful moments happened while filming the crucifixion scenes. The wooden cross he carried weighed around 150 pounds, and in one take, it slipped and fell directly on his shoulder, causing a serious injury. The pain you see on his face in that scene, that's not acting, that's real pain. But that wasn't the only injury he suffered. Caviezel was also accidentally whipped during the scourging scenes, and even got hypothermia from spending hours nearly naked in freezing weather. For real, this guy was more than dedicated to the role. 8. Weather challenges. As if making a movie about the crucifixion wasn't hard enough, Mother Nature decided to make things even more difficult. The production team battled extreme weather conditions throughout filming. In some scenes they had to deal with heavy rain and freezing temperatures, which made things incredibly tough for the actors, especially Jim Caviezel, who often had to stand nearly unclothed for hours. Then, there was the insane wind that would knock over cameras, ruin carefully planned shots, and make it nearly impossible to keep things running smoothly. And let's not forget the multiple lightning strikes that hit the set. But we'll talk about that later in the video. And with all this drama, some people started wondering if the film was cursed. Now, finding the right people to bring this story to life was no easy task. Mel Gibson and his team spent a long time searching for actors who could truly embody these historic figures. Interestingly, Jim Caviezel wasn't the first choice for Jesus. Gibson initially considered several well-known Hollywood actors, but eventually chose Caviezel because of his deep faith and dedication to the role. He also had the right physical appearance, as Gibson wanted someone who could resemble traditional depictions of Jesus without relying on CGI or heavy makeup. And for the role of Mary, Maya Morgenstern was chosen because of her incredible emotional range and natural motherly presence. Casting was especially tricky because the actors needed to be willing to learn and perform in ancient languages. It was a risky move, but the final cast delivered powerful performances that made the movie feel raw and real. To his credit, Mel Gibson wanted the Passion of the Christ to be as historically accurate as possible, but that didn't mean every single detail was completely true to history. So to make sure the film was believable, the production team worked closely with biblical scholars, historians, and religious experts. They researched ancient Roman and Jewish customs, studied the real-life process of crucifixion, and even looked into weather patterns from that time period. However, some creative liberties were taken. For example, while Jesus was brutally beaten in real life, some scholars believe the level of violence in the movie may have been exaggerated. The devil character appearing throughout the film was another creative choice, meant to symbolize the presence of evil. Regardless, the filmmakers worked hard to stay as true to history as possible, while still making a gripping and emotional film that connected with audiences worldwide. As you can imagine, transforming Jim Caviezel into Jesus was no easy task. The makeup team spent hours every day making sure every wound, bruise, and drop of blood looked real. The brutal whipping scenes, which showed flesh being torn, were created using prosthetics and special effects makeup. And Caviezel had to sit through long sessions while artists carefully applied layers of fake skin, dried blood, and open wounds to make his suffering look as real as possible. The crown of thorns wasn't just a prop either, it was real, and at one point it actually cut into Caviezel's scalp. Add in the cold temperatures, strong winds, and the long hours of filming, and you can see why playing Jesus was physically draining. In fact, the crew even had to reapply makeup constantly because Caviezel would sweat it off or it would be ruined by the natural elements on set. Multiple lightning strikes. In case you didn't know, filming The Passion of the Christ came with some shocking moments, literally. During production, lightning struck the set not once, not twice, but 3 times. Assistant director Jan Michelini was hit twice, and Jim Caviezel, the man playing Jesus, was also struck. While it sounds unbelievable, several crew members witnessed these events. Caviezel described the moment as surreal, saying he saw a sudden flash before everything went silent. But despite the terrifying experience, he miraculously walked away unharmed. Some people saw this as a warning, while others believed it was a sign that the film was spiritually significant. Either way, getting struck by lightning is rare, but having it happen multiple times on the same movie set, that's almost unheard of. If anything, it only added to the mysterious and intense atmosphere surrounding the making of the film. Record-breaking success. Now, most people wouldn't expect a religious movie, filmed entirely in ancient languages, to become one of the biggest hits in cinema history. But The Passion of the Christ shattered expectations. The film earned over $611 million worldwide, making it the highest-grossing independent movie ever. It was also the most successful R-rated movie at the time, proving that people were more than willing to watch an intense, emotional, and graphic depiction of Jesus' final hours. The movie's ticket sales were insane. Churches and religious groups bought entire theaters so people could watch it together. It also set a record for the most pre-ticket sales in movie history at the time. So, despite some controversy over its violent scenes, nothing stopped it from becoming one of the most talked-about films of the 2000s. Even today, very few religious movies have come close to its impact and financial success. Spiritual experiences on set. In case no one told you, the intense atmosphere of The Passion of the Christ led to some truly strange moments on set. Some crew members reported seeing figures dressed in white who weren't part of the cast, but when they checked the footage, these figures weren't there. People also described feeling an unexplained presence while filming the most emotional scenes. Jim Caviezel himself had several eerie experiences. He later said that during the crucifixion scene, a strong wind blew through the set and he felt something overwhelming. Some people took these events as signs of divine intervention, while others chalked them up to exhaustion and high emotions. But one thing is clear, the film's production was filled with moments that left people questioning what they had just seen or felt. So was it all in their minds or something beyond explanation? Sequel in the works. If you thought The Passion of the Christ was the end of the story, think again. Mel Gibson has confirmed that a sequel, titled The Resurrection of the Christ, is in development. Jim Caviezel is returning to play Jesus, and the film is expected to focus on what happened after his crucifixion. Gibson has been working on the script for years, saying he wants it to be even more powerful than the first movie. He describes it as an adventure with deep spiritual themes. And while details about the plot are still under wraps, fans can expect an emotional and visually stunning film. Filming is set to begin in 2026, and with the impact of the first movie still fresh in people's minds, this sequel is already creating buzz. Whether it will match the success of the original remains to be seen, but one thing is certain, it's going to be big. Now head to the comments and tell us what you think about The Passion of the Christ. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more amazing Christian content like this.